news all over the place, brother. Hey, but you didn't write much different in your column.
Wasn't flowers and hummingbirds on reading this one either.
That's right. I want somebody to talk me out of it, not talk me into it. But now, look, here's the good news. God's still on the throne.
Yeah.
And we know how this, this play turns out. But it's, I think it's very clear, having been through this election now, that things are going to get worse in America before they get better. We had, I think a lot of us had hoped that we could get like a timeout, with Mitt Romney in the White House, where we didn't really have the thought that Mitt Romney was going to turn things around in the country, that he was even going to be, like Ronald Reagan or something like that. But we thought, well, maybe he'll buy us some time, so that we can get our act together, and we're not going to be, the economy is not going to continue to deteriorate. We're not going to have a tax on religious freedom. All the things that we've been experiencing for the last 4 years. Well, now that the reality has hit us that it's only going to get worse. He's going to be more emboldened. I don't just blame Obama, but it's the entire Democratic political establishment. They're right in line with him. The culture is in line with him. In fact, the culture, Tim, is really dictating this.
Right.
I mean, they set the stage. I've often said, politicians don't lead, they follow. They follow the culture. What you watch on television and what you see in the movies and what your kids learn in school and what your older children learn in universities. And, all of this has an impact on the culture. It's driving it away from God, driving it away from the, foundations of liberty that our founding fathers bequeathed to us. And so here we are,
outnumbered,
practically voiceless, except for shows like yours and outlets like WND, where we still talk about God, where we still believe in God. The problem here is not, conservatives versus liberals. It's really about, one of you, I can't remember which one, talked about the fact that we're no longer one country, indivisible. We're two countries. And It's so clear when you look at that election map and you see, the big swaths of red and the little pockets of blue.
Right.
And the little pockets of blue are dictating to the big swaths of red. This isn't new. This isn't just in 2012. This has been the case for many, many years. Every election in my lifetime has been like this, but it's getting worse. And so what's the answer? Well, I think there's really only a couple of things we can do. And, we've talked about them before together. I think it's very important that Christians get down on their knees and tremble before God for what has happened to this country, what we're going to be experiencing for the foreseeable future here, and really take a good look at 2 Chronicles 7:14. That is not talking, by the way, about a whole country coming to repentance. It's talking about the people who are called by my name. It's us. It's the believers. If we do this, God will answer. I really believe that. I think we've got to embrace that view very strongly in the days ahead. I do believe America is facing judgment, and I think we're in the midst of it. I think it's going to get worse. I wish I had better news for you. But that's that's the number one thing we got to do. The other thing I think we really need to do is, as Christians, you, Tim, and AFA, your dad, what you've done is create a new cultural institution. That's what AFA is. It's a remarkable new cultural institution. And what we need to do is create more institutions like that that are educating people properly, that are not whoring after false gods, which is essentially what every university in this country is doing. every government school is doing to one extent or another. And we got to separate ourselves from that.
Right.
Each of us, we need to start separating ourselves from that, pulling our kids out of these government, indoctrination centers we euphemistically call schools, and we need to purify ourselves as a body.
Amen. Talking to Joseph Farah from WorldNet Daily. Hey, where can people read this column? What do they need to do?
Well, WND.com is the site, and it was published 2 days ago, which means if you click on my mustachioed face on the front page there, you'll get the most recent column, but there's an archive. Hey, you know what? They're all just as good as that one, Judgment, but you got to go back a couple of days to find the one called America Pronounces Judgment on Itself. My immediate reaction to
that's not always a good thing to do, by the way. Write something when you're raw like that.
Actually, you want to know a secret, Tim?
What's that?
I wrote it before the election was over.
Oh, did you really?
I wrote 2 columns. One.
You had an acceptance speech and a defeat speech, huh?
That's exactly what I did. I didn't know how to get it out quickly enough. So I did put a lot of thought into it. I did look at both alternatives over a long period of time.
Joseph, Ed Vitagliano here. Just wanted to, you were talking about the culture and politics following culture.
Mm-hmm.
I found it interesting, been reading some about President Obama's data mining and number crunching teams. And I was fascinated to learn, you probably already knew this, that what they did is they looked at women in the West, for example, and they said, what Hollywood star do women love? And they found that they love overwhelmingly George Clooney. So what they did is they went and got George Clooney to have a dinner with President Obama, and then they had a big fundraiser, and they said to women, if you want to have dinner with George Clooney and President Obama, here's how much you pay per plate for this big fundraiser. They did the same thing in the East with Sarah Jessica Parker, who was a beloved icon of many women. So what they did, and it's brilliant, even while cynical, is they hooked women to Obama through these Hollywood stars. So these women were saying, well, George Clooney loves President Obama, and a fair number of them, I'm guessing, said, so I love President Obama, and the same thing with Sarah Jessica Parker. That to me, and this is obviously an overstatement, that to me is not what the Founding Fathers envisioned, that when they were hoping for a well-informed electorate being, advised of the issues and, studying the issues. No, what we've devolved to is, I love George Clooney. George Clooney loves President Obama, therefore I love President Obama.
That's right. And, we think that these decisions that America makes are made on Election Day every 4 years or every 2 years, but they're really not, because how does George Clooney become this icon to women? How does Sarah Jessica Parker become an icon? And that's the culture it's operating 365 days a year, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's bombarding us with these, immoral, unprincipled, unconstitutional, ungodly ideals. And that has an effect.
Right.
I mean, you can't deny that it has an effect. Who is speaking for God in our culture? Who's standing up for God in our culture? Who's standing up for the Constitution in our culture? Where is it being taught? Is it being taught in law schools? Come on. It hasn't been for years. It's a living Constitution. All of these things have impact. We're not going to ever fix this problem with elections. I've been saying this for 30 years. Tim heard me say this probably 35 years ago. I applaud what you guys do because you're actively engaged in the culture. You just can't get involved every 2 years at election time and expect to change the direction of the country. It's been drifting this way, incrementally.
40 years.
For 40 years.
Yeah.
And boy, it's going to take at least another 40 years, if we're lucky, and if we're blessed by God, to turn it around.
Joseph, what do you think about? We got about 5 minutes left here. There's so many ramifications, and there's so many elements and aspects to Tuesday that I find many respects I find flat out depressing. But at the same time, the curiosity part of me, I want to explore them because I want to understand what's happened here. This is I mentioned this. This was history made Tuesday night in this respect. I want you to comment on it if you would. A fellow won re-election for president who was by all measurements a failure. Okay, an utter and complete failure.
It's right. It's so unbelievable, unthinkable, inconceivable. By what standard of measurement did the American people use to evaluate this guy? I mean, if he was running against just some guy you picked out of the phone book, you would have thought they would have rejected Obama because it's complete, total failure. But see, for the half the country that voted for him, he's not a failure. He's given them what they want. He's given them goodies. He's given them, false hope.
So the 47% that Romney was filmed saying, that was true. Do you think that's true?
I'm sorry, what was
the
that?
The 47% remark. Do you remember?
I
what I'm talking?
It was the truest thing he said.
That's what I'm saying.
It encouraged me to vote for the guy.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Exactly right on.
But you're saying that what Romney said about the 40.
Apologize for that's where we are. That's the reality.
Yeah,
we're approaching 50%.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is you're saying what Governor Romney said when he made that remark to that group in Florida, which was caught on tape, and everybody, the media played it like he doesn't.
He doesn't care about that 47%.
He doesn't care about that 47%. I think he cared about him as a human being, but he was talking
cares
political.
About him like we care about him.
But he was talking a political fact. He was saying the people that the Democrats give money to through all the welfare programs and the government entitlement programs are never going to vote for Republicans who want to reform those things.
That's right. It's a reality. Look, any student of history knows that this is the case. If you get to the point where, in a democracy, where people figure out that they can vote themselves the goodies by, then and they don't have to work and they can mooch off of others,
right,
which is exactly what Romney was saying. They will do it. It's in their self-interest to do it, and that's why, most of the people who voted for Obama did it.
Yeah, because it's inexplicable any other way. You can't when gas prices have gone up doubled in his tenure, and I don't necessarily blame gas prices on presidents, but most Americans do. But
those prices are associated with the guy at top.
But he intended to do it. He told us.
Well, he denied the.
2008 he was going to drive up energy.
That's true.
Intentionally.
That's true. His energy secretary, the guy has an Oriental name. What's the name?
Chu.
Obama's energy secretary said his desire was to see gas prices get so expensive people don't use it anymore.
That's right. He wanted them to be at European level.
Yeah,
$7 a gallon.
Equivalent of $8 or $9 a gallon.
See, I don't know what else you have to say that I'm a Marxist.
Well, I can tell you what you have to say. I love George Clooney.
Oh.
I guess.
Hey, I want to finish up 5 more minutes with you. Can you hang on?
Sure.
Joseph? And then also coming up momentarily, we've got
Reva Timms and her book When It All Falls Apart.
I got one more question for Joseph Farah when we get back from the break. You're listening to the radio program Today's Issues on the American Family Radio Network. Stay with us.